Hey, you guys, this is Donovan Doc over here at Vision Hacker TV. And I just finished live recording this topic, but I wanted to re record it just in case there were some problems with that or some lag or uh, make sure that whatever we keep is good. And the best time to do it is right after, right? I got it right here. It's fresh. All right. So a lot of different voices, a lot of different voices right now, a lot of different people talking a lot of different topics, a lot of information. Um, I think when it comes to abundance, we're getting a lot of information right now. Just something that I've researched. I research it a lot, and I really feel like I have a good handle on it. All right. I don't think abundance is prosperity in the sense that people don't like prosperity teaching, right? I think that abundance is different. I think it's a source, it's a place, it's a spiritual thing. And if you're doing it correctly, it's actually very easy. Very easy. It's that we are so accustomed and programmed to be in lack, and we think that that's somehow noble. And we miss the fact that our identity is wrapped around our purpose or our calling. And if we're coming into that um, and not trying to source material, uh, which turns into greed, if you just keep trying to source materialism, you're going to end up in a very negative spot. It's just what it is. And so understanding that you are a giver, that you are first called to be a creator, and then once you are creating, you're giving. That is who you are and what you are. In order to give correctly, you need something. Okay, you have to have something to give away. What are you giving away? And so a lot of times you'll hear me say, what do you want? It's a good place to start because this is what I just gave you right now is a very adult conversation. If I start having a conversation with people, the first thing they're not thinking about what they can give away because they haven't come into anything yet. And so a good conversation to begin to have with people when we begin to get them into their vision is what do you want? What's the dream, right? What's excuse me, what's the dream here so that we can begin to reverse engineer and hack it in order to what? Give it away. Anything in the dream is for others. It's not for you. And that's what you need to really begin to understand. And that's hard for people. It's more important. I think a lot of times people are like, well, I just want my bills paid. I just need that new car. I just want that new house. I just need this relationship. I just want. And so that's cool. Good. Write it down. Let's get started. That's a great spot for me to begin to coach people because the next place that we're going to go is now how does this tie into purpose? Okay? And once we begin to understand how this ties into purpose, then we can really begin to source what I refer to as abundance. What I refer to as abundance, and I want to put a definition, I want to label this now so that you guys can be comfortable with it. Uh, um, this word has been used by a lot of different people for a lot of different things, and it's vague. And even at that, it's still vague. It's still a mystery to most, not all. A lot of people get it and they understand what they're doing with it and how to keep getting it. But once you tap it, once you learn to tap it, it's just a stream. It doesn't necessarily stop. It doesn't turn off. Once you've gotten your mind into a state where you understand sourcing abundance, doesn't stop. The biggest thing that you're going to ever source it for is not materialism, not greed, right? This brings about calamity, it brings about disaster, and ultimately it brings about destruction. So that's not what you're trying to do with your abundance. You got to source your abundance into your purpose, into your identity, into who you are, into what you're supposed to be giving. And then, right, as you abound more and more and more and more, you're fruitful. Why? Because you're making others fruitful. That's hacking your vision. All right. So that's what we're teaching here. That's what we're all about. And there's no sorrow with the blessing. You don't have to be in any sort of sorrow or pain as a result of being in abundance. And I think that's part of the teaching that people see, right? And they start to have a hard time. It's a thing where we're almost ashamed if we start doing really well because most people are not. And I'm going to say this real quick, you guys. If you're called and your purpose is to be a millionaire, you be a millionaire and you do it well and you do it comfortably and you learn to give and you give at a high level and you help people. And if you're called to be a $50,000 a year earner in this category or that career or then you do it well and you do it at the highest level and you come into your gifting and you throw down, all right? And I will say this, the guy making 50 a lot of times is happier than the guy making 500,000. It's just godliness with contentment is great gain. And you got to understand where your spot is, who you are, and not allow all the different voices and all the different people and all the different things and all the different teachings to beat you down. Whether you're here or whether you're here, right? Whether you're here or whether you're here, it doesn't make any difference. It's that you're in your purpose. I met a preacher running a country church, man, living in a parsonage, driving a Ford Taurus, and that's him. And I showed up in a Prada suit to do a little preaching for him one day. Do you know what I mean? And two different guys living two different lifestyles, and we were both equal and equally happy. All right. One wasn't bigger or better than the other. And I think that is what we really need to begin to understand, people, is that if you are in your gifting and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to be all right. You know, the problematic is you see a kid who grew up all his life singing in the church, happy in that church choir, happy, praise to God, happy in his place, happy, right? And all of a sudden he gets offered a contract in Hollywood and he has to sign a contract with his own blood and sell out to demons. And all of a sudden, right, his soul is in jeopardy and all this sorrow follows, but he's got millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in the bank. And that's been the testimony of that's not what I'm saying. That's what some of these guys, um, Gene Simmons and, different guys, man, who have come out of that lifestyle have said this and they've been saying it in media and they shut that off. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. But it's true. And you're going to tell me that the guy who's singing at his country church and doing his thing and using his gifting isn't just as happy, if not happier, than the guy who's drinking himself to death, shooting up to heroin and dead by 27? Okay. Do you? All right. So there's a misconstrued perception, I think, of what abundance is and what abundance looks like. At the same time, I have been a very successful entrepreneur, making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, right? Made millions of dollars many times over. Same time, I'm speaking to some people, right? And I'm getting them in their gifting and I'm getting them into their dream and all this stuff. And not everyone's called to do what I do. You're not. But the minute you put your eyes on me and say, this is what I'm going to, that's it. That's what I want. That's cool. If that's what you're called to do, then duplicate it, reverse engineer it and run and do it better than me. And you guys know that's the way I am. All right. Anyone's ever been around me or in my classes, or my expectation for you is that you go beyond me. I literally look at my students the same way I look at my very own children. And if you don't surpass me, you're in trouble. Right? I've had guys look at me like, dude, do you really believe that? Absolutely. At the same time, I'm going to try to do what I do at the very highest level. But yeah, part of what I'm doing is trying to create a groundswell that rockets you guys, that launches you guys, right? Into the biggest you can ever be. And if I don't honestly believe that, then my entire premise, my entire program, my entire thing is a lie. All right. If I don't honestly believe that a bunch of you are going to be way better than me, then it's a lie. And I ain't lying, man. I ain't trying to turn that in at the end of my lifetime. I ain't trying to turn in some shady, shoddy, you know what I mean? Piece of crap deal, man. I'm turning in your guys' best work because I brought it and taught it at the highest level. So yeah, I expect some of you to run with it at the highest level. All right, listen, here's the other thing. Blessing. You're called to be in a blessed place, right? I think too many times people want to be in lack because they have a victim mentality. Then it's okay to be a victim. Then it's okay to blame circumstance. Then it's okay to do nothing. Parable of the 5 talents, man. You got one guy, he got 5 talents, he went and got 5 more. Another guy got 2 talents, he went and got 2 more. The one guy who took his talent, buried it, did nothing with it, unimpressed. Unimpressive, you guys. Unimpressive. So you got to understand, right? When you have, you got to go get more. You got to get more is okay. More is okay. We've been taught, I think, in this culture sometimes, two things: excess, negative, there's balance, and then lack. But for those of us who are prospering and doing well and learning to be in abundance, sourcing that abundance at a high level, and we understand all that it brings to us, that we can have a blessing that we can't contain, man, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. So don't accept this victim mentality, right? Don't accept this broke. I'm broke, looking at this broke. I ain't got nothing. Huh? Come on, man. That's ridiculous. Contentment's another word. But what is contentment? You got to define what contentment is. All right. And you got to begin to move in it. You got to begin to walk it out. You got to begin to be that. All right. And then once you're that, another level, another layer, another level. That's called growth. That's called growth. You ever seen a tree that's not producing right? Parable of the fig tree. Jesus comes over, he finds a fig tree not producing. What's he do to it? It's not even in season. It's in winter time. It's not supposed to be putting out fruit. He curses it. Like, why'd you do that to that fig tree? Everyone's messed up about it. I expect it to produce. You need to be a producer. You need to be a high level person. What begins to happen is when we're not producing, when we're not being productive, when we're not in our action, when we're not in our calling, when we're not being filled with wisdom, right? Craziness, craziness. Your life is spiraling. Something's wrong somewhere. You're not healthy. Abundant trees are healthy trees. Okay. They're planted where they need to be planted. They're sourcing what they're supposed to be sourcing. So there's going to be a multiplication. There's going to be fruitfulness. It's easy. It's easy. If you're sourced right, if you're plugged in correctly, right? It's when you aren't. Now you're on drugs. What now you're on, you know what I mean? Now you're drinking in excess and you're drunk and you're bringing pain and misery to people around you, right? And you're becoming abusive to others or abusive to yourself, right? With fentanyl and all these different drugs that everybody's on because they're unhealthy. I'm just telling you the truth right now. I'm trying to help somebody. I'm trying to help somebody to understand and see that they need to begin to come into wholeness, that they need to be whole and quit wrecking your life. Quit tanking the things that you know you're supposed to have and making an excuse using the color of your skin or the color of our skin sometimes or all these other different things, right? Listen, let me tell you something. Everybody's born with something wrong. Everybody's born. Nobody's born on third base. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody's born on third base. So they're like, oh, I was easy for that guy, man. He gave his dad was, man, if that dude took everything and walked into his own calling and figured out his own identity and begin to prosper on his level, love it. Love it for him. Let me go get mine. That's all I think. Let me go get mine. All right. So that's all I got today. I expect you guys to be thriving. That's why we call this the Thrive Stream. Be thriving. Be churning your bucket into one that runs over. Be sourcing. Next week, we're going to be talking about that. A little bit more of the sourcing. So what's the source look like? What does a source look like that begins to runneth over, runs over, runs over, runs over, runs? There should be more than enough. There should be plenty. All right. So we want to see what that looks like. Where does this source come from? Where does this stream come from? How do I get into the fuente de la agua? How do I get into this? You know what I mean? Refreshing stream that never ends. Eternal streams that never end. More, more, more. That's what you guys are supposed to be doing. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next time.